What's good, YouTube? Listen, this video is going to be about signs that a person has trust issues and they are unfit to date. Signs that you should run the other way. Now, jumping right into this, the first sign on this list that someone has deep trust issues, deep-rooted issues that can't be overcome with just a few nice dates or a few nice words. All right, the first of these 6 signs is they're constantly suspicious. Right? They're constantly questioning your character, your intention, what you're really doing, your honesty, your integrity. And if not you, they're doing this to other people and other dynamics and other relationships. A healthy skepticism is always okay, but some people are just generally suspicious of everyone. It's right. It's because they've been hurt before. It's because they have deep-seated wounds that haven't been healed. They're looking to avoid re-injury, but the problem is they injure everyone around them with the constant questioning of everyone else's intention and integrity. They usually guilt people into doing what they want based on that person trying not to look suspicious, or that person trying not to look like a threat, or that person trying to make sure they stay within the good graces of the person who has trust issues. Sometimes it's an unintentional manipulation happening because they hold their validation and they hold their trust back. They covet it to such a degree that people start to do whatever it takes to gain their trust, and they start to betray themselves in the process, which makes an untrusting person a very unfit lover a lot of times. Everyone isn't trying to be a manipulator, but some people just naturally do it based on how they treat people and how they think about certain things. When people catch on to that, they try to manage it, they try to navigate it, and that in turn makes them more malleable and vulnerable and susceptible to abuse and manipulation. If you're in a relationship where you're constantly trying to prove that you are what you say you are, that you are who you say you are, and that you're being honest, that person is unfit to love. And if you see those dynamics in other forms, in other relationships, whether they're family, friends, co-workers, whomever it might be, don't add yourself to a relationship with this person because you'll just be another person trying to prove yourself to them constantly. Moving on, the second sign a person is unfit to love because of deep-seated unhealedness or trust issues is they are fearful of being vulnerable, right? The fear of vulnerability is always an indicator that something's happened to someone, right? They're covering themselves up. They're protecting themselves. A lot of times there's no threat in place, though. There's no threat anywhere around. When people withhold whatever their truths are, despite how trivial they might be, despite how insignificant they might be to anyone outside of them, it's a sign that they're unhealed. It's a sign that they haven't dealt with the things that have hurt them. Reluctancy to share your emotions and your opinions or your experiences out of fear of being hurt or betrayed or someone using that information against you is a clear sign that someone is unhealed and they've been through a lot. This isn't to say that they don't deserve love if they are unhealed, but they need to handle that first, right? Because everyone in the world, everyone who meets you, everyone who you encounter and who tries to have a relationship of any type or dynamic with you doesn't deserve to pay for the mistakes or the sins of others. So if you see this in someone, if you see them guarding every piece and bit of information about them as if it can be used against them, then the likelihood is that they're unhealed and they haven't dealt with the things that have traumatized them. Again, this will become a relationship about you proving yourself to them constantly, being guilted into doing whatever it takes to make them feel comfortable, leaving yourself behind in the process. So if a person you meet ever lacks surface level vulnerability, it should raise an eyebrow. Don't victimize yourself trying to heal someone else. Moving on. With that said, sign number 3 that a person is unfit to love because they have trust issues and may injure you in the process of attempting to love them is difficulty relying on others. Right? There are some people who are just independent by nature, but it comes from a healthy place. Then there are other people who are overly independent, right? Who won't open themselves up to be disappointed by anyone. Unfortunately enough, these habits are very hard to break. It's too easy to prove to someone that you can't be depended upon, that they shouldn't trust you when they're in this condition. Women and men often find themselves bending over backwards, folding themselves into a pretzel, jumping up and down, performing like a trained animal just to prove to a person that they can be depended upon, that they can be counted on. These people often like to control situations, right? Won't let go of the reins, so to speak. Presenting yourself as an ally or someone who can do something for them often triggers or upsets them. It's very difficult to love someone who won't allow you to love them, who won't receive your love, who refuses to be a recipient of anything that you have to give. It's very difficult to establish yourself, your security, and your confidence in the relationship when you're not actually allowed to be everything you are to a person that you love, or attempting to. When you're not allowed to give like you give, or express like you express, or help like you like to help. Dating someone like this can mute the better qualities in you, and ultimately cause you to be more toxic for it. People who have trouble receiving love often have trouble giving love. Because of the idea that love needs to be earned at every turn, loyalty in them or the perception of loyalty in you can never fully be established. Most of the time, self-sabotage will occur in one form or another to get you away from them so that you can't disappoint them because of your nature to give, or try to love them in ways that make them feel uncomfortable, in ways that they don't know how to receive. Moving on. The fifth sign that somebody might be a little bit unfit to love, that they're not healthy enough to love, that they're a little bit toxic is, they have a deep-seated fear of abandonment that you're responsible for catering to. This fear of being abandoned and betrayed rears its ugly head in a lot of different situations. They might exhibit separation anxiety where they need to stay too close to you or keep tabs on you, or exhibit untrusting behaviors, right, such as stalking online or watching your profiles or reading your messages or breaking into your phone and things of this nature. When people have a fear of abandonment, it usually triggers an anxiety that causes them to chase you like a spy, like a tail, like a private investigator, even if you haven't done anything. While I'm a firm believer that people in healthy, faithful relationships don't necessarily need as much privacy as people who are single, some of their investigations borderline on disrespect and just absolute mistrust. That can injure you trying to be good to them, never really fully establishing their trust. Again, playing to your self-esteem being lower, playing to your security in the relationship being injured or not being fully established. When you see this behavior in a person, it also is accompanied by them being clingy, them being needy, them feeling like they need constant reassurance from you, almost accusing you of not loving them or not liking them or not being serious if you're not kissing their ass. The constant need for confirmation of a person's commitment ultimately becomes exhausting. Now, everybody's a little bit screwed up, right? Life hasn't been great to most of us at some point or another. So it's understandable that a person might have one thing or two things on this list. When you start piling this stuff up, it can be very toxic, and unfit lovers are usually going to damage you more than you help them. So be very careful about trying to move through and navigate these things with people when they start to pile up. All you can do is be the best you. Don't try to fold yourself into whatever shape they want you to fold yourself into just because they need the extra. Unhealed people need to deal with that, not project it onto others. Moving on. The sixth and final sign that a person may be unfit, that they may be unready for love right now is they have difficulty forgiving. Trust issues can make it really hard to love a person past transgressions. A person who lacks trust won't trust you to have forgiven them and will always expect you to be getting a get back or trying to get one up on them if they do something wrong to you. So in consequence to their actions, when they mess up, they trust you less. And if that's not the case, if you do transgress, if you do make a mistake, they don't have the grace for you that they would require for themselves. They don't have space in their hearts to love or to grow with you or to allow you to grow beyond the thing that you've done to upset them or hurt their feelings. Because of their trust issues, you get one opportunity, one shot to be perfect. Who can live under that type of stress and pressure? If you have a healthy mind, you won't have one for long if that's the way that you have to operate in a relationship. They hold on to resentment. They bring up past issues like they just happened yesterday. Their justification for anything that they do to you is whatever you did to them in the past that they were supposed to already have forgiven you for but have not, because they keep it in their back pocket. They don't live things down or allow you to. It's very difficult to not start to resent someone who seems to be protecting themselves from you when you know you have their best interests at heart. And again, when people are doing this, it's not just them not trusting you. It's the way they handle you. It's the way they kiss you. It's the way they hug you. It's the way they receive your love, your gifts, your favors. It's the way they give gifts, love, and favors, or don't do that because they don't want to create an expectation to where they depend on you or they trust you or they have forgiven you. Unfortunately enough, hurt people hurt people. And most of the time, while it's unintentional, it still has a similar effect as if they meant to harm. And most of the time, while it's unintentional, it still has a similar effect as if they meant to harm. Again, people might have one or two of these things that they struggle with. Hopefully that they're actively working toward healing themselves from or doing something about, or at least being self-aware of it so they can check themselves before you have to check them or before you're injured by them. But if a person has 2 or 3 or more of these issues and they're not checking them, they're not dealing with them at all, they're not self-aware, and they're not on a journey to help themselves heal, you have to move on, because ultimately you will become them with the trauma that they project on your life. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Follow me at KidFic24 on Instagram. If you need coaching, go to KidFic.com, formerly GirlTalkWithGuys.com. I've changed the name and you'll be forwarded over. For those of you interested, my 3-month coaching program for couples and singles is back live. So my Stay Together program for couples and my Love Ready program for singles are back. If you're interested in those, text the word love to 614-254-6633. Again, that's 614-254-6633. Text the word love to that number and I'll reply and we'll talk about maybe booking a free call to see if that program is a good fit for you.